Oh, hi guys, I didn't hear you come in. Well, if you're here, shh, be really quiet. If Vanessa catches me looking at these presents, I'm going to be in trouble. Oh man, it feels like that's going to be socks, yeah. Oh man, another socks. That's got to be socks. Ah, yes, socks. I tell you, if I was a centipede, I'd be happy till the summer. Okay, what's this here? Oh. Ah, that's more like it, a hard drive for the server. Awesome. Anyway, I better try and kind of put this back in here so no one notices I've seen it. Well, so at least it looks like I've got a hard drive for the server. So let's beam over to the mothership. I'm going to tell you what my Unraid Christmas wish list is. Hi guys, and a Merry Christmas to you. Now, as you probably guessed, today's video is not a tutorial, so why don't you grab yourself a beer, it's Christmas, come on, have a drink with me, and let's have a talk about Unraid features that I really wish would be put into Unraid. So, cheers. So I thought the easiest way to do this video is we just start with one tab and just work our way across. So I'm on the dashboard here. Now, I really do like the dashboard. This is a fairly new feature of Unraid. We didn't have it a few years ago. Now, I like it that we can drag things around, but we can only do it inside each individual column. So I can't go across and put an item from the left column, say, into the middle column or the right-hand column. So that's a feature I really like, because my left-hand column here, if I scroll right down, for instance, if I want to see the GPU load here, well, I've got to scroll right down to the bottom of the page. And there's all this white space here where I could kind of even things up a little bit, and I think that would be a great improvement. Now, something else as well. I really wish how we set up the dashboard could be persistent across different browsers and different PCs. I'm one of those weird people that have my browser actually clear all of the cookies when I close the browser. So if I close the browser now and reopen it, when I log back into Unraid and go to the dashboard, well, everything's back how it was. And you can also see here that the order of the columns is different too. Now, obviously this would be the case as well if I went on a browser on a different PC. So I think it'd be nice if we had some sort of configuration file that could keep track of how we've actually set up our dashboard. Now, I'm sure some people would disagree with me with this being a good idea, because you might actually want to have different browsers or different PCs with a different configuration, and so having it saved by cookies in the browser for a lot of people might be better. So let us know what you think in the YouTube video comments below. Also, what I think would be nice on the dashboard is to be able to totally disable or remove modules from the dashboard view. Now, yes, we can actually minimize them by clicking on these little arrows here, but it'd be really nice to be able to actually remove the ones that we don't want to have shown. And as well as that, inside a module, it would be nice if we could configure what inside that module is displayed should we want to have the module on the dashboard. And again, this is partly possible. For instance, on this processor module here, I can hide part of it, getting rid of the graph, or I can hide the details of the CPU cores here. But what I'd really like to be able to do is hide the CPU cores when I want, but be able to have the overall load shown in a percentage bar. I know, I'm just probably being a bit fussy, because I can see the load here. Now, how I'd like the dashboard to be is, if we go across to pfSense here, like obviously I like how things can be moved around from column to column, and how inside modules, things can be turned on and off. So this is the first thing on my list to Unraid Santa, but maybe he can fix it for us to be able to have some updates to the Unraid dashboard. So again, in the comments below, let us all know what you think of the Unraid dashboard and what you'd like to see here. What changes, if any, that you'd like to see on the dashboard. Now, anyway, let's move across from the dashboard and go onto the main tab here. Now, the feature I know everyone's asking about and wanting, it's built-in ZFS support on Unraid. Yes, we can use ZFS with a plugin, which I do myself and find really useful, but I can't wait until the Limetech guys actually integrate ZFS natively into the OS. I really think when that's done, Unraid is definitely going to be the undisputed king of all NAS systems. Now everything else I think on this page is pretty cool. Nothing I can think could be improved. You know, if there's anything you think can be improved, then please share it with us in the comments below. Now actually thinking about it, there is one thing I think would improve this page. On the dashboard page, under the drives, there's a little thumbs up icon if the smart data on the disk is good. I think the perfect place for this would be on the main page as well, because this is where I come to look at all of my disks, so having it here seems the natural place for it to be. Now onto the shares tab here. Now one thing with the shares tab that I always do when I come here, I scroll down here and I click on a share, thinking when I click on it, it's going to show me the contents of that share. Now it's probably just me being stupid, but a few of my friends, they always find that the same as well, and having to go right across over here and clicking on view files, I find that quite an awkward way to get to the files, because basically I view the files inside shares a lot more often than I want to edit or look at the actual properties of the share. And when you want to actually click on and view the files, you kind of have to move your mouse across and follow the highlighted line, but it's quite easy to kind of drift off and end up clicking on the wrong share. So I'd quite like to see this kind of restructured a little. Maybe here being able to click onto the actual share name and see the files. And then next to it, maybe have a little cog where we can click onto that and then see the settings of the share like we normally do this way. Now there's something else I think would be quite useful, is if when we create a new share, that as well as being able to choose, you know, whether it uses a cache pool, etc., I'd really like it to be able to set a maximum size for a share. You know, for instance, if I give someone access to a share in my house and they're backing up a whole load of stuff there, I'd like to be able to give them a quota so they can't actually use more space on the array than what I want them to. Now, yes, there is a kind of workaround for this. I could set it to not use the cache pool and say it can only use, say, disk 4. Obviously, that will limit the share to the size of what disk 4 is. And I could say minimum free space on that disk. I want to make sure that there's always going to be, say, 1 terabyte available. But really, this isn't a great workaround, because when other shares start using disk 4, my lovely new test share could actually be pretty much empty, and there just won't be enough free space on the disk to allow it to write to it. So being able to have some sort of quota, very similar to what we have at the moment with the ZFS plugin here, where we can create a data set and put a quota for it there. So it'd be really nice to see that in all of the regular shares as well. So we could enter a quota for the share like we can see in this template here. Okay, so moving on to the settings tab here. Basically what I think would be pretty cool, not only on this tab but on some other tabs as well, I think it'd be really good if we kind of had 2 sections of the settings. We had a favorite section and also a main section as well. So let me show you what I mean. So at the top here, the first thing you see is the favorite system settings. Now these are settings that you use a lot that you can select to be a favorite, and they'll always show at the top in this section here. Then underneath that, just the same as before, there's going to be all of the system settings, and the advantage of this is just being able to easily access quickly settings that you use a lot. And an alternative way of setting this up would be to have 2 actual kind of tabs. So you'd have one tab for favorite system settings, and then you could click onto the other tab which would show all system settings. And again, the favorites are selected from all of your system settings, where you can put a checkbox next to the ones that you want to be favorite. Now onto plugins. Nothing really here that I'd change. I'm sure this is a pretty new feature to be able to select multiple plugins and remove them all. And until making this video, I never noticed that you could actually do this, because this was going to be one of my wanted features for my Christmas wish list. Okay, so onto the Docker tab. Now the first thing here, if I scroll right down to the bottom here, you can see I've installed the Docker Compose plugin here. But what I'd really like to see is native Unraid support for Docker Compose, rather than us having to use a plugin. And again, very similar to the settings page, I'd love to have a page of containers where I can select each container to be a favorite, then have the favorites displayed just like on the settings page, either with the page split up into 2 sections with the favorites at the top and all Docker containers underneath, or 2 kind of separate tabs. Now another thing I think would be very useful is at the top of both the Docker page and the VM page, it should show the overall CPU usage in percentage and as well the overall percent usage of RAM as well. I think that'll be useful being able to see it on the Docker and the VMs page. The other pages, I don't think it really matters. Now when I update my containers, I normally just scroll down to the bottom of the page and hit update all. I just like to choose when the updates happen, although I know a lot of you out there use the excellent plugin which automatically updates various Docker containers which you want to be updated. But whichever way you choose to update your containers, have you had the problem where you've updated a container and then you find it doesn't work anymore? Well, so have I. And so I think it would be basically good to be able to kind of undo an update. So it would be really nice to be able to actually go into the container template and click roll back to the previous version that was installed. Now this does mean there'd have to be orphan Docker images kept every time there's an update, but so long as this was kept to a maximum of 1 per container, I think it would still be pretty cool. Now with the Unify controller for me, I'm not running the latest version, but I'm running a specified tag because I know this version always works well for me. So the reason I'm pointing this out is because I had to roll back to this version in order for my Unify controller to continue to work. But many new users probably wouldn't know how to do this, so by having a rollback method that can be done with the press of the button, I think would be a useful addition. And also along similar lines, I think it'd be useful to have a function for a container to be set to not be updated. Like I was saying earlier, I like to choose when I update my containers, and I quite often like to go down just to the bottom of the page and click update all. But I wouldn't want to have to go through each container manually clicking on update, because there might be a container I just don't want updating. It would be much more convenient if I could select the containers which I don't want to update when I click on the update all button. Okay, so moving on, now there's always been a little niggle I've had with a container, is when we actually click onto a container and it's set on the advanced view. With a container just like this one where there's a lot in the overview, the advanced view really doesn't display it very well at all. It always looks better on basic view. So I think it'd be really good if on the advanced view, the overview just looked exactly the same. Now another really useful thing I think in Docker would be to be able to go into a template, and as well as being able to choose what sort of network we're using, to be able to connect the container to multiple different Docker networks should we so wish. And I think another nice thing to be able to do from the template within a container, to be able to limit the amount of RAM from a drop-down box. Now yes, of course we can easily limit the RAM using extra parameters, but many times I've seen people, when they're trying to limit the RAM, basically trying to do it by adding another variable because they haven't had much experience with Docker. So I think this could be quite a useful thing to have. You know, we've got the CPU pinning here, so why not also be able to restrict the RAM should we want to. Okay, so moving on to VMs. Now one thing I've always wished that we had is when choosing a CPU model, we can do more than just host pass-through and an emulated CPU, because in Unraid 6.11 we've got a lot more than this. If I open up a terminal window here and type ls/usr/bin/qemu and then an asterisk, you can see we've got the package for PowerPC, for RISC-32 and 64, and you can see other ones here such as the ARM package and the general ones that we know, the x86, x64. And if you look at the amount of CPUs just that one has, for instance, and I type qemu-system-x86_64 space then -CPU space help, well, that's going to show us all of the virtual CPUs that we could use. So yeah, obviously there's far too many really to just have in the standard template of Unraid, but it'd be nice to actually have a little advanced toggle here like we do on Docker that would then allow us to choose more CPU types based on the template that we're using, and obviously we would need more templates here to be able to easily use things such as ARM emulation in our VMs. Now again, going back to a VM template similar to this, and one thing that I was really happy to see was having more network models put into Unraid, but it'd be really nice to see a few more, such as RTL 3189. Again, when we toggle to the advanced view, you know, I'm probably the only person in the world using Unraid that likes to actually run a Windows 98 VM, and none of these CPU types are supported in Windows 98. So it'd be nice to see a few more for the weird people like me that like to do silly things like that. Now, another really useful feature would be in a VM, when you make a change to the template, any custom XML you have doesn't get reset. For instance, this is a Mac VM here, and if I scroll down to the bottom here, you can see here's some custom XML. Now, if I was to add, say, some extra RAM to the VM and click update, when we go back and have a look at the XML, we can see it's been stripped out. Now, I did make a script for Mac VMs that would put back in the actual XML that has been stripped out. That's pretty easy because I know what should be there. So it's much more difficult for the Limetech team to be able to do this and make it when you edit the template that it doesn't get rid of the custom XML. So let's move on to the apps tab here. And there's nothing to say here. Community applications is really awesome. The only thing I can say is happy holidays back to Andrew, Tracy and the family. Well, you may know Andrew from the forums as Squid. Now, talking about Andrew, I've always wanted with the custom tab plugin, which allows you to put extra things along the top here. For instance, I've got a power tab here, which shows how much power my server's using, rather a lot at the moment. I've got these other tabs here, I've got this solar tab here, where it logs into the website where I can see my solar system. I can go to Home Assistant. So what am I moaning about this? Well, I'd really like it that a custom tab would be able to run a user script from any of the user scripts that we have installed. Now, you're probably beginning to realize I'm pretty lazy and I don't like doing more clicks than I have to. But that's something, if Andrew's actually watching this video, that would be really cool to actually have put in. Okay, so onto the Tools tab. Again, nothing here really that I think could be improved, other than as before when I mentioned in Settings, that you're able to select your favourite tools which are shown first, with all of the tools underneath. Okay, so talking about the Settings tab here, there's one thing I've seen people ask for a lot, and that's to have Wi-Fi support in Unraid. Now, my feelings are really mixed with this. Personally, I don't think it's really a great idea, but on the other hand, I can see why it'd be really useful for some people, like university students who are living in a shared dorm where they only have Wi-Fi. They want to bring their Unraid server with them to uni, and without Wi-Fi support, they just can't set it up. And also the same goes if you live in a shared house, and you can't go drilling through walls putting network cable everywhere. But there's one thing that you can do. You could use a travel router, like this. This will connect to the Wi-Fi, and then you've got 3 LAN ports, so you can plug your Unraid server into this. Yeah, it's quite expensive here. I've seen it much cheaper on Amazon, so I'll put some links in the description. Now, another thing you could use would be a power line converter. So if you've got access to your Wi-Fi router, you'd just plug a network cable into one of these ports, and then into the router, and then take the other plug to where your server is, and plug a network cable from one of these ports into your server. And so basically what that will do is use your electric cables as Ethernet cables. So there are things you can do, and I know a lot of people, they're going to go, oh yeah, but I really like the Wi-Fi support. But in Linux, the Wi-Fi drivers, they're pretty hit and miss. I guess Limetech, if they wanted to, could just have various pieces of hardware that are supported for Wi-Fi. But I think that would just open a can of worms, and it could end up with a lot of people not being very happy that they can't get the Wi-Fi working. So in my opinion, I think it's best for Unraid to stay Wi-Fi free, at least for the current time. Now, I might make a video in the future about using a VM and passing through either the built-in Wi-Fi on the motherboard or a USB Wi-Fi, and then seeing if we could bridge the network so actually Unraid could get its network through one of its VMs. I haven't actually tried that before, but theoretically it should work, and if enough people want me to do that, well, I'll make a video showing how. Okay, so I think I've covered everything that I think would be cool in Unraid. I've probably forgotten loads of things, and tomorrow, while I'm eating my Christmas dinner, I'll be thinking, Ed, you should have mentioned this, that and the other. But anyway, in the comments of this video, tell me what ideas you've got about Unraid, what features you'd really like to see. And tell me if my ideas, they were good, bad or ugly. And don't forget that on the Limetech forums, there's a feature request section where we can all post features that we wish were in Unraid. Anyway guys, it's getting late here, so I'm going to go now. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please share this video with anyone else who you think might like to watch it. Now, as always, a big thank you to all my patrons and supporters out there. Thank you so much guys for all of your support. And to all of you out there, I hope you have a great Christmas and a happy New Year. And until next time, I'll catch you later.